thing that I love to feel that. It revitalizes me every time we do it. And I hope when we get through this morning, you're even more vitalized. I want to talk to you this morning about a way that you and everybody else can add a greater joy and a greater fulfillment to your life. And the way you're going to do that is fairly simple to say, maybe not quite so simple to do. And that is to give no power to the panics of the present. Now, you know what those panics are, don't you? Oh, yeah, there are plenty of them around here. Even a casual look at the newspaper. I hope none of you are addicted to that thing with the big eye, TV. It construes and distorts the emotions. So just read the paper. It's all right. Anyway, you get sidetracked from the truth when you get all that stuff thrown at you. But there are several panics going on. Why, you know, there's the panic of what we're going to do about the environment, what we're going to do about Afghanistan and Egypt and Mali and all those other countries that are having uprisings in them, about what we're going to do about crime. Oh, my. And terrorists. And how about, oh, that's good news, the stock market, at least this week. Anyway, that list just goes on and on and on and on, you know. So what I'm trying to say to you is if you give power to any one of these, the joy of your life can be just virtually destroyed, and the calm and the security of your consciousness can be just in an uproar. Now, by giving power, I mean that you choose, I use that word advisor, you choose to be anxious, fearful, vengeful, to stew, to lose sleep, to join protest group, and take drastic action. Those things all stir you up in the very wrongest way. And when I say give no power to these panics, I don't mean that you're going to ignore them. You never ignore fact. Nor do I mean that you would always remain aloof from the challenges. You see, if you remain aloof from what's in the world, that's what they called back in the old days stoicism. And it never did work then, and I don't think it can work now. But I do mean that each one of us can feel compassion and take action that is appropriate to the situation. It doesn't have to be frenzied, angry, emotional action. It can be calm, sweet, and good action. Sound like a contradiction, doesn't it? Well, it's not. And I think we need to understand the difference that I'm talking about. For example, there's a passage in Luke, it's in the 7th chapter. I bet most of us haven't read this for a long time, so I guess I'm going to have to read it to you. This starts with the 11th verse in the 7th chapter. Soon after, he, meaning Jesus, went to a city called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. As he drew near to the gate of the city, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a large crowd from the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and he said to her, "Do not weep." And he came and touched the bier, and the bearer stood still, and he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak. And Jesus gave him to his mother. Now, what happened after that? Oh, fear seized them all. They glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has risen among us, and God has visited his people." And this report concerning him spread through the whole of Judea and all of the surrounding country. Oh, you think that wasn't a panic situation? She was about to lose her only son, be put in the grave. So here was, and she was a widow. He was an only son. probably her means of support. Now, you know and I know that Jesus could have joined the mourners. He could have showered pity upon her. He could have thought, oh my goodness, I need to help you in whatever way I can. And I feel your sorrow so deeply down in my heart that there's nothing I can do besides just stand here and weep. That's what he could have done. That's what a lot of people do. Isn't that true? Well, if he'd done that, that boy would still be dead. And the opportunity to use the power of love for good would have been lost through these ages. Instead, I want you to notice what happened there. Number one, Jesus observed the situation. Secondly, he determined in his mind and heart what would be the best good for everybody concerned at that place. And third, he saw only the good to be done and therefore took positive action. And then, number four, he released it. You see, he concentrated all of his power on the good and wasted none of it on that negative appearance. Now, that's not an isolated incident. It is the pattern for all of the ministry of Jesus. It goes like this every time. He's aware of the situation. He's determined what good that he could bring to the situation. He takes positive action to harmonize the situation. And then he releases and he thought of it. He moves on. He goes on. He doesn't stand around saying, hey, see what I did? Look at me. Look at me. Look what I did. Oh my, I am it. He didn't do any of that. He simply released it and went on. You see, Jesus knew that he could not, should not, would not resist what was there. He created from within himself. You see, Jesus never operated from a lack or failure of, or even condemnation or fear. Did you know that? You read the whole Bible through and read everything that Jesus did, and you'll never find him talking about failure, talking about condemnation, talking about fear or lack. You see, he was moved from the center of his being with an all-powerful love that God had given him. And you know what? He says every one of us can do the very same thing because all of us have that very same love within us too. Thomas Troward, a great English metaphysician, in his book, The Hidden Power, teaches us to, quote, clearly realize that the creative power in ourselves is unlimited. There's no reason to limit the event to which we may enjoy what we create by means of it. Since we draw from infinite supply, there is no danger that we will take too much. The danger is that we will not realize our own richness and let's look upon what we already have as being the only riches that we can get, instead of realizing that the creative power of the Spirit is our real wealth. So I think it's very significant that Jesus, in his judgment of any situation, used what can only be called righteous judgment. He said, judge not by appearances, judge by righteous judgment. That is, he wasn't fooled by the appearance or the cries or the curses of any rabble or even the elite. He saw good restored, and he rightly judged how best he could apply his power toward restoring that good. Whatever else you want to believe about it, in every situation that Jesus was involved in, he accomplished maximum good for himself and for the others that were involved. He saw each situation in life not as a threat to himself or to other people. He saw them as an opportunity to expand good to himself and to help other people. And in so doing that, he recognized the two good limitations that we as human beings have. Only two. Did you know you only have two limitations? All the rest is free? Yes. That first limitation is a very interesting one. That limitation is that you nor I nor anyone else has any kind of power to exercise control or power over anybody except your own self. To try to do so is utter foolishness. To try to control yourself is bound to succeed at some time. And the second limitation is it's a desirable thing. It's not always practiced by everybody, but it's one that, if practiced by everybody, would change the world. And this is the limitation which we know as kindness. Now, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Random Acts of Kindness Week again, and we're going to talk about that somewhat. But this morning, I just want to remind you that no one can control or exercise power over anybody else. That means that I am I'm totally free. Did you know that you're totally free? Oh yeah, you are. You're free to do and be whatever you desire. You and I can create all that we can imagine. Nothing can stop us from doing that. You can shout to the rafters, I am invincible. Would you like to say that with me? I am invincible. Now, some of you don't believe that. Some of you do, and I hope all of you will by the time we get finished. You are invincible. But by the same token, every human being is totally free, can create all their heart's desires, and cannot be stopped. Therefore, every human being is invincible. No, I haven't gone bananas. I haven't flipped my cord. Just hear me out. Because I know that it's hard to say, I'm invincible. That goes against all the stuff we found out when we were a kid, doesn't it? When we were told, you to do what I say. Well, I'm going to paddle your little, yeah, sure. Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that you have an on-off switch right here. On-off switch. And I'm going to tell you that it doesn't make any difference how much power is sent through the line to that switch. There is nothing that can cause you to turn on. Nothing is going to happen until you turn on. You understand that? I don't care how much good there is around you and how many times it's forced upon you. If you've got your switch off, you're not going to get turned on at all by that. Now, it's there, and I can come up to you and urge you to turn your switch on. Oh yeah, I can give you a great long sermon about how good it is to do so. Hallelujah. All that stuff. I can do that. I might even browbeat you over the head and shoulders to get you to turn on. But you know what? I don't have any power at all to turn you on, and you don't have any power to turn the next person on yourself. The only person that can turn you on is you. And think about that. That's your divine protection. It's your power of choice. And Jesus understood that thoroughly. He was never in any way intimating that he had any power over anyone. He wholeheartedly pointed out that it was the power of the Father and that it was the individual's faith that allowed the good to come to that person from the Father. In other words, the faith is the switch that turns it on and allows the good to come into you and for you to use it. Jesus, I guess, considered himself sort of to be a catalyst. He didn't turn and say to somebody, oh, they're not good. No, they just go ahead and suffer. I don't care. And he knew that many people turn on as a result of what they see, hear, and feel. So he spent his life being a perfect example of what to be and how to feel and how to think. And he sent power to every person that he came in contact with. And he told them, that power is there for you to use. And he urged every one of them, as he urges us today, to turn on. And you know, one time he even got a little old whip to illustrate the point more vividly. That was that. And remember him in the temple with the money changers? Was he mad then? No, he was having fun. We'll get into that some other day. You see, what Jesus did was he brought good as much as he could to every situation, and he succeeded, even if most people who listened to him did not turn on. It wasn't 100%. It was only those that were ready to turn on that got so. Now, I'm going to say something which, well, you take it for what it's worth. It's possible that Jesus could have been the Christ and never been actively good on the human plane. He could have simply gone through life smiling or sitting or doing something. You know, there's a group of people in this world that think that's the way it ought to be. They believe that fulfillment is attained only when you eradicate yourself. I don't know how you do that, but that's what they think. You should just eradicate yourself and you withdraw from all of the affairs of the world, and therefore you transcend into something. Never saw it happen, never believed it could happen, but there's people that did it. And perhaps they're right, I don't know. Jesus didn't think so. And I don't either. Hope you don't either. And it's all because of that second human limitation, kindness. It's the only self-limitation that we have. You see, kindness is the elixir that flavors human life and makes it desirable to continue that life. And Jesus' life spoke eloquently of the truth that experience without kindness is just simply not worth having. And it is kindness that you supply that adds the flavor to other people's lives. And it's not somebody else's kindness that adds flavor to your life. Although it does add a little zing. You know, we like to have that come. But it is the kindness that you give, or somebody else gives, or I give. And that kindness acts as a sort of a catalyst, so that we can give people our power without them taking away our power, for we have a limitless supply of it. Jesus summed it up by saying, whatever you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. That's Matthew 7:12, in case you want to look it up. Indeed, kindness is a human expression of divine love. Once again, from Troy in the Hidden Power, he said, love shows itself by service. And service proceeds from empathy or compassion, which is the capacity for seeing things from the point of view of those whom we would help, while at the same time seeing them also in their true relation to God. Think about that. Think about it. Kindness, love. So, the admonition this morning is, hey, be of service. I don't care where that service is. Some of you serve on boards somewhere. Some of you are on city councils, or some of you serve on committees that do good in the community, or work in charities, or go down to the place where they give out this food that we bring in. And a lot of people do a lot of things that help other people, and it's good to do that. No doubt about that. But let me tell you that it also can be a burden for you to carry. And there is a burden when, as you do it, you still continue to use condemnation, anxiety, panic, alarm, or threat out of your life. You see, the idea that Jesus puts forth is that, look, life is good. Life is a wonder. You can be whatever you want to be. You can do what you want to do. And in every situation, I don't care what it is, you can forget condemnation. You can forget anxiety, panic, alarm, and threat. So if you want to know how to do it, just see life through the eyes of the Christ. For Jesus saw every opportunity, everything, every situation as an opportunity for good. None did he see for bad. Always for good. And so if you can see that, you can know that all is good. And that you can look beyond the distorted appearances of stuff, and you can restore harmony and peace and prosperity and health, not only to yourself, but to the folks that you deal with. Judge rightly, and you can bring of good into any situation. And if those that you bring it to will accept it, they then will manifest their highest good. So the key here is to remember kindness. And out of kindness, take whatever action you know to be appropriate in any situation. Examine yourself first. See if that action has tinges of greed, fear, panic, anxiety. If it does, remember Jesus said if you're on the way to the court, get even with you, get good with your neighbor, go back, and then go to the court. Well, that's what he's talking about. If you feel that you've got to do something that's not positive, then think it over again. Find the way in your heart to be positive in whatever that situation is, and then go do it. Take appropriate action. And then his next advice is probably the hardest of all. Release it. Do your good, and then walk on. Don't stand and brag to people about how good you did, or how much money you gave to the church, or how much work you've done for this or that. God knows what you've done, and that ought to be enough. For the satisfaction that you have is the satisfaction of your own heart. And when you have done it and released it, your heart will be at peace. It's in this way that you'll remove from yourself and others any pretense of having power in the panics of the present. There's a story in the Old Testament about a fellow by the name of Joseph. Remember him? The kid who had the cloak of many colors, yeah? He was kind of a brat. He was a tattletale. He told on his brothers. And his brothers didn't like that too much, so one day when he came to visit them when they were away from home, they decided, well, we don't have to put up with that. So they tossed him in a pit and then sold him off to some guys that were going down to Egypt as a slave. Well, now, how low can you get in this life than to be sold off as a slave by your brothers? Wow. But when he got there, he was put in a house, and he worked so well and so hard that he became the man that was in charge of the household. And that was pretty good until the husband there was told by his wife that Joseph had made a pass at her. So he put Joe in jail, down in the deep, darkest prison. And it was there that Joseph began to understand that in every situation there is light and love and joy, and there is no need for panic. Well, one of the people that was down there with him was a man who had been the butler to the Pharaoh. He'd done something, he got put in jail. But finally, he was being released. And he was going back to his old job. And Joseph went to him, he'd befriended him while he was there. He said, listen, Mr. Butler, I want you to do for me, I want you to think on me and show kindness, I pray, unto me. Think on me and show kindness, I pray you, unto me. That should be the prayer of mankind. That should be your prayer. And that should be the blessing that you yourself give to everyone that you know, everyone that you don't know, everyone. It is the Spirit of the Christ. It is the spirit of kindness that is shown not only to others, but shown to yourself. The Spirit of the Christ. And this, my friends, is something that every one of us can do. We can remember that we have no power over other people. And we can remember that we can be kind to everyone. And in so doing, our hearts are pure, filled with joy and peace and love. Perhaps you would be like this. Let me just put it in words. You could say, I'm a child of God. I am made in the image and likeness of God. I am imbued with the power, presence, and wisdom of God. I create what I image. I image only wholeness, abundance, kindness, loving service. I am happy and fulfilled. Thank you, God. And thank all of you for your kindness to me and to your neighbors. Bless you.